And today's topic is life as sacred pilgrimage. So often I think we feel burdened and almost like we're enduring life as if it's some kind of prison sentence. And so we get to shift our perspective and come into a deeper understanding of life as a sacred pilgrimage. So before we get started, let's just take a minute to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flowing into your lungs, flooding your bloodstream, nourishing every cell in your body, all your organs, and bringing life and vitality, health and energy. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's take a deep breath in through your nose again. Hold it, and this time imagine brilliant, electric, bright light flowing into every electron, every molecule, every part of your being and beyond, and connecting you with the world. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's just bring our palms gently together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel that wonderful sensation in your fingertips and in your palms, and to bring you present right here, right now, to the wonder of our physical being. And welcome, welcome. It's great to be here with you today. And I don't know what's going on with my voice. I apologize for that. But let's look at life as sacred pilgrimage. And I have to thank Dido for this because it came up in one of our conversations. And uh, it's such a wonderful, wonderful reframe of life that can often feel so burdensome and challenging. And when we engage with life, or if we even can imagine engaging with life as a sacred pilgrimage, the thing is that life presents all kinds of challenges to us, and upheavals and disruptions and joys and surprises and excitements, this whole gamut of experience. And when things are difficult, we tend to feel very much at the effect of them. And if we were to, in real life, go on a pilgrimage, if we were to be setting out on a journey, this reminds me of the Camino walk, which is sorry about this, which is a 500-mile journey. It is a pilgrimage journey from France into Spain. and and along that journey, it's a 500-mile walk. It takes on an average of 30 days through all kinds of weather. And of course, you would expect that you would experience challenge and hardship on that journey. And yet, going through the journey, the process of going through the journey, and ultimately arriving at the destination, or not, even just being on that journey with the context of it being a sacred pilgrimage, the hardships that are endured are contextualized in a completely different way than if you were just going on a walk. Maybe you might not choose to go on a walk in the rain or the mud, or in the sweltering heat, for instance, or in the blistering cold. You might choose not to be walking. But in the context of a sacred journey, there's a certain gift in those challenges. And if we can recognize those gifts in life as we experience life from day to day, if we allow ourselves to be present to the enrichment that life offers us with the challenges that it brings, and we keep the context of life itself being a sacred journey, then the power that we have to not only endure, but to cherish the challenges with which we're faced expands exponentially. And our experience, it's interesting because perhaps the challenges would be exactly the same, but our experience of them would be different. The way that we would view ourselves in the context of our lives would be different. And so I wonder what it's like for you. Good morning, Dido. I was giving you props here for the today's discussion of living life as a um, a sacred pilgrimage, a sacred journey, and what what we came up with in our conversation was that perhaps life would look the same from the outside, but the experience of it from the inside would be profoundly different. And it reminds me of the I think it's a Zen sort of uh, story. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And what does that mean? It means that we're still um, performing similar day-to-day sorts of tasks, but the experience of it and the presence from which we arrive at those experiences is entirely different and transformed. And so in the context of sacred pilgrimage, what does that mean? I think it enables us to receive the lessons of life with a more open heart and uh, greater appreciation, where we get to embrace the challenges and the triumphs or the celebrations, maybe more fully from a place of a broader perspective, rather than getting caught in the moment of frustration and magnifying that, or rather than experiencing our depression as something that's wrong with us, to potentially experience it as part of this pilgrimage, as a cleansing, as a purging, as an evolution. I know, and I've spoken of this before. Years and years and years of my life, I experienced deep depression, and certainly clinically treatable depression. And in fact, at one time, I did fill a prescription for medication for depression, which I ended up not taking. And I'm not advocating that you not take depression medication if that's what you choose to do. For me, what I realized is that this depression I was experiencing was my teacher. And so Dido says depression, yes, can have meaning. Yes. So to go back to that idea of depression having meaning, I chose to experience it as my teacher, even though it was excruciating at times, and just unbearable at times. And I thought of dying many, many, many times. Um, I I felt like that. I think I did kind of treat it as a sacred pilgrimage, that going through the darkness, the valleys of the shadow of death, so to speak, and really the valley of the shadows, to move through that and be able to survive that journey, that transit, and to get to the other side of it. And even if you need to be supplemented with support to be able to get through that other to the other side, um, I can say now that I'm glad I did that. That I'm glad I persisted, and that I have learned very deep lessons from that journey through what felt like endless darkness into a bottomless void. It did feel that way, and it felt hopeless and dark and despairing for a very, very long time. And I know that so many of us experience deep depression, and I also know that it can be part of our sacred, um, I don't, what do you call it, when the fire is curing the not curing like a disease, but curing the metal of a sword, when you're honing it and um, strengthening it through the fire. And yes, the fire can kill you. Or you can succumb to the fire. There's no doubt. And you may come out with scars and burns, and you may come out purified. And what I mean by that is, you may be able to vanquish those dark demons. And smelting is, that's one word. Thank you, Diodo. There's another word, um, for the word that helps to harden the metal as you crucible moments. Oh, that's brilliant. Yes, crucible moments. So we've all experienced deep darkness from one time to another in our lives, and that darkness can be relative to our overall experience. Some of us have lives that are graced with greater ease than others. But these movements through the darkness, we can consider them to be crucible moments where we're being refined, where we're being strengthened, and I keep wanting to say purified, because it's not. Um, we get to let go of parts of ourselves, or we get to expand to include them and beyond. Maybe tempering. Thank you. That's it, Dido. Tempered steel, right? So these experiences of deep challenge are moments, they're crucible moments that temper us and strengthen us and refine us, and hopefully bring us wisdom and bring us insight and temperance. That's really, actually, it's interesting to think about that word temperance in this context, rather than um, around alcohol or certain behaviors. But uh, yeah, so this refinement, and by viewing life as a sacred pilgrimage, it gives us a greater capacity to recognize these moments, and maybe gain a broader perspective on them, and these moments could last years actually. um, and it feels like you're just slogging through, and it feels like such a burden, or it can. And when those burdensome times are existing for you, to be thinking of life in its holiness, in its sacredness, can at least allow you to persist to the next step and the next step and the next step. Good morning, Tammy. Welcome, welcome. So I was speaking about the Camino, at the pilgrimage, the 500-mile pilgrimage of the Camino in from France into Spain, and I'm sure I haven't done it yet. That's on my bucket list. But I am sure there are times when it's a matter of simply putting one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other. And you might wonder, why would anybody choose to take that on? And that goes into the idea of maybe we actually choose to be here in this life. And maybe this is the sacred journey that we choose to come here and be present to. So Rosalind, good morning. And Rosalind says the movie The Way. Yes, The Way is about the Camino. And I have friends who have done it, and I had intended to do it this fall. And then I had a foot injury. It wasn't actually COVID that stopped it. It was that I had an injury, and then kind of got put off track. But yeah, so why would anybody put themselves on a 500-mile journey on foot? And I think we can look at, what if we chose life? What if we chose this as our sacred pilgrimage? And what will we make of that? How will we put our foot in front of the other? I believe that probably on that journey there are days when it's just like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Um, and I know that there are days in life where it feels that way as well. When we look at revering life as a power in and of itself, as a purpose in and of itself, life for life's sake, life for the breath that we breathe, life as sacred in and of itself, and worthy in and of itself, without having to do anything, without having to perform anything in particular, to just be present to life and experience a reverence for life in and of itself, then that elevates this experience to something sacred. And when we are present to that holiness, or that sacredness, then there's a sense of magic and a connection to something greater that can then enliven us, something greater that can inspire us to put the next foot forward. And I I so resonate with this idea of life as a sacred pilgrimage. It feels so true to me, deep in my heart, like it's moving me. And I'm wondering if you have that experience as well, in considering life as a sacred journey. And if you were to be able to experience life in that way, a sacred pilgrimage, what would be different for you? What How might your experience of your challenges shift? What might be different about the context? What might be different about your feelings toward it? if you were able to remain present to this sacred journey. And so one of the things that comes to mind and has been spoken by a bunch of my clients lately, and I wonder if it's something that is present for you recently as well, is what's the point? You know, why am I here? What's the point? What am I doing? And when we when we think about this notion of life itself as the sacred pilgrimage, that in and of itself is the answer, perhaps, is why, because I breathe, because life is living itself through me, life is expressing itself through me and through you and through everything that we see and experience and conceive and perceive in the world. So it shifts context profoundly, profoundly, to connect to and maybe give yourself over to this energy of life itself. And when we connect to that primal force, I imagine that it may give us more freedom to express our deepest inspirations. And I believe it's our deepest inspirations that we came here to fulfill, that we came here to presence in the world. And so if if saving the planet inspires you, if working with children inspires you, welcome, welcome, Hope. I'm wonderful that I'm delighted. It's wonderful, and I'm delighted that you're here with us. And I think we're talking about some really rich content, so it would probably be worthwhile to catch the replay. So as we're talking about life for life's sake, life as a primal energy that's expressing itself through us. And what I was saying is that the inspiration that we have is driven by that force of life, that energy of life. And I believe if we connect ourselves more directly to being a vehicle of life expressing itself, that will power our inspiration into action and manifestation in the world, and it will become a different place as we value life. So this conversation, in part for me, has arisen from recognizing how our values in our culture and our human family are displaced and misplaced from life to some kind of equivalency between time and money. And time and money doesn't talk about life. And we are inclined to sell our time for money, and that is like giving over our life force. I don't have anything against money, please don't misunderstand that, but I believe that money should be a vehicle of exchange rather than something that is a value in and of itself. And Dido says, life is living itself through me, and I am its unique expression. That's so beautiful. Well, it's so true, I think. I think it's true that, and thank you for reiterating that, Dido. Um, we are its, and actually, I think you added, and I am its unique expression, but it's completely true that we each are a unique expression of life. And we came here to be that expression in its fullest. And I believe that that is the purpose. If we're asking why is the point? is to express life in its fullness in our unique way through the inspiration of presencing ourselves to that primal life energy, that then flows into inspiration, that then flows into action and manifestation in the world. So um, I think we get to refocus our attention and intention rather than on the externals, the doing, the money, the things, that as we connect, rather than from the outside in saying I'm striving to achieve these accomplishments, or I'm striving to achieve this level of material comfort, to move instead of the outside in, to try to, like saying, this is what I want, I'm going to do things inside to get there, rather than going from the outside in that way, to go from the inside out, and to start with the connection to life as sacred pilgrimage, and then connect to that life energy, that primal life energy within, and allow that to provide the inspiration that then inspires the action, that then creates the external result. So along the same line, I encourage my clients to create intentions, or to presence themselves to intentions and ways of being, rather than to external goals. And the intention is to maybe connect with that inspiration. The intention is to experience abundance, and that's something that we can do inside regardless of external circumstances. And as we experience those things, as we experience our authenticity, as we experience our vital drive to expression and authentic expression, then we do create results in the world, and those results are coming from an entirely different place. To go back to the before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water; after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It may look similar from the outside, but the dynamic and the flow of life in the creation of those outward manifestations is completely different. And as a result of that flow, there's a different frequency to the whole process, to the result, and certainly to the experience. So I hope you can play with this idea and just allow yourself to feel into, what if life in itself, your life, is a sacred pilgrimage that you have chosen, and that you are fulfilling, that you are traveling through and along and into throughout your life. And maybe that will provide you some greater sense of peace, even if you're going through darkness and challenge. And so, with that, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. That's it for today. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for these conversations, and for engaging in these challenges of heart and mind. So I go live every weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page, And I want to encourage you to please go and check out the wonderful programming on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And until next time, so much love. And let's all step into expressing the fullest possibility that we can in our lives, no matter where we are, light or shadow.